I've been looking at the digestive system and what it means to yoga. We're not learning about the digestive system because we're going to diagnose anybody or try to give anyone advice on their digestive issues. But in my own experience, my yoga practice has always been connected to examination or contemplation of what I eat. And I think that's part of the yogic journey is, you start to open up your awareness of how so many things are connected, and especially your intake, how it's connected to how you feel in your body. So let's take a look at our manual, which has this picture of the human digestive system. And it has a number of organs that are not necessarily associated with the gastrointestinal tract, like the liver, for instance, but are very close to the digestive system. So we can see how when we're doing a pose like camel pose, the whole front of the body is stretching and how that's going to stretch exactly where your digestive system is. And what I find really fascinating is then to think of this journey of the food through the small intestine and the large intestine. Which one is longer, the small intestine or the large intestine? So we're talking about length. I think you probably know this.
I kind of know the answer.
Yeah.
So. But I also know it seems like a little bit of a trick because you would think that the large intestine is larger, which to some degree it is in width, but not in length.
The small intestine is actually longer, but it's smaller in diameter. So in length, the small intestine is 2.5 centimeters, which takes us to about here.
How thick it is?
That's how the diameter of the small intestine, 2.5 centimeters. So compared to the large intestine, which is 4.8 centimeters. So that takes us to about there, 4.8 centimeters. So that's the small, 2.5, and then that's the large. So that's why the small is called the small, because it's smaller in diameter. But the strange thing is that the small intestine is much longer than the large intestine. So let's take a look at the numbers. So here we are, the small intestine, 2.5 centimeters, 7 meters in length, or 22 feet in length. Okay, that's the small intestine, whereas the large intestine is 5 meters.
That seems like a lot of organ in my system. How do you fit all that in your body?
I made a little prop for us. So because it's really hard to gather. So I happen to have this yarn because I like knitting. And oops, my small intestine is crumpled. So here is like a representation of the length of the small intestine. So let's see, about 1, 2.
And that's what it does. It all coils and wraps back on itself.
Yeah, I mean, it has a very specific track. So here we go. So that is all. This is like everything you eat has to pass through this whole.
That is a long
system. Like this would go across my whole room, That many, they say it's like about 3.5 times your height. Okay, so I don't want to ruin this scarf for myself, but this scarf is about 1.5 meters. And this is the length of the large intestine.
That is a lot to fit.
So this is the part we talked about. This is the large intestine, which kind of goes up, ascending, and then the descending colon, and then into the rectum. So, you get the idea that this is the part where the final nutrients are drawn out of the food and the water absorption, reabsorption, or depletion can take place in the large intestine, which is going to feel weird to put it back on my neck, but an example.
Okay, so everything goes through the small intestine first. So your food has to be really well chewed, I would think, to then pass through the small intestine. Then it goes into the large intestine, which is a shorter distance and there's more room to move. It's thicker in diameter. But that's where you're saying it picks up the nutrients to pass.
Well, and I think it's actually picking up nutrients and the bacteria. It's doing its job all through the small intestine as well, but just the final part is through the large intestine. Yeah.
So it's a very mindful process, but understanding how the digestive system works, it would make sense then with all of the, twisting, knowing all of the complexity that's happening in the digestive tract and in the abdominal area, you would think that if we twist and fold and move into lesson like boat pose, compress parts of the body, that's the stimulating effect that we're having on those organs. We're kind of like knocking on their door saying, hey, wake up, do your job. So that's why it matters to yoga teachers, is that we do have an effect, not necessarily on what people put into their mouth, but once it gets there, the postures have influence on the digestion process.